Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I want to show you a really instructive endgame puzzle where it's black to play and win. Take a second, see if you can find the right idea. There are 4 options that I want you to consider. King f3, king f4, pawn h6, and pawn h5. Those are the 4 options. Let me make those 4 different colors. So take a second, see if you can find the idea, and see how far you can calculate through the entire puzzle. While you're thinking about that, let me ask you to subscribe if you have not yet already. Half of the income I earn in this channel goes directly to charity, so every like, every subscriber helps us out so much. Alright, let's get to it now. So there are a lot of variations in this puzzle, so bear with me, but I'll try to go over the main ones. So let's just say we'll start with king takes f4. This looks very natural to make this move, take the pawn. This is actually a blunder. Now why? What can white do in response to king takes f4? So they have an amazing defensive resource. They can play h5. Great move. So what's the point of this move? The idea is that if you take this, there are 2 h-pawns and this king just has to get to h1 and it's going to be a draw. So for example, the king would run. If only you can get your king here, but you can't. So you pretty much want to just like race the king, but the king gets there, and right, that's going to be a draw, just in case you aren't sure. So that first idea doesn't work, right? This doesn't work because they can play h4. If you're thinking something else, like they push, sure, either way, h6 results in a draw, and there are a lot of variations from here, but just to show a couple, king e3, just getting your king in. If they ever run for this pawn, you run your king in, and eventually you try to force the issue. King g4 does not win, does not draw, but king g3 does. Why? Because now you can play f4. So tricky, right? You want to get this h-pawn, you want to get your king in the corner, a lot of stuff like that. Cool. So the moral of the story is that f5 will mark this as a mistake. Let me mark this as a mistake. Okay, so don't do that. What about king f3? Seems like you're really blocking the king off. It's a good idea, right? Well, sure, but they can play king d3. And you kind of have to make a choice here. Do you want to take here? Do you want to take here? Do you want to maybe make a slow move? Either way, it's going to be a draw. Nothing you can do here is a win. So feel free to plug this into a computer and play on your own if you don't believe me. But just to show an example, if you take the pawn on f2, then their king runs in. And that probably is pretty obvious why this will be a draw. If you take the pawn on f4, there's only one move that wins, one move that draws, just like before. It's h5. Right? If they take this, it'll be a draw. If they do something else like push, that gives you more time. Kind of like the same position. You get your king back, protect this pawn. You get the idea. Cool. So king to f3 is also a mistake. Let's mark that as a mistake. Like this. If you don't know how to do that, just right click on the move and it'll come up. Okay, so now we have h6 or h5. Let's play h6. What happens? Let me first make the move. h6. So this idea of h5 hits again, where they play this move, and now you really can't do anything. You can't push, because this will result, lose the game, right? So you pretty much have to take it, and if you do, this will be a draw. The king gets to the corner, and it's a draw. So now you might see the idea. The winning move in this position. The only winning move. One move. h5. Now why is this a great move? Let me put a great move sign on this. Great move. Why is this a great move? Because it fixes this h-pawn. And you might say, but can't they move in? Can't they play something like here? Or back maybe? Like, isn't there a way to hold this? Can't they play f5? Maybe try to distract the king away or the pawn? All these ideas are good questions. Just a couple of notes. If they make this move, f5, only one move wins. Do you take with the pawn or do you take with the king? That's pop quiz number 17 for you. I feel like I've asked so many questions already. King takes is the only way to win. If you play f takes, that's actually a drawing move because it lets the king go back to e2 and it's going to kind of be like before. If you try to fight like this, they play king d3. And if you go after this pawn, look at this, king d4. Would you play this? This is very scary looking, but this is just another one of those h-pawn situations, right? You block the king in, they can never get their pawn there. If you're not familiar with this, look at some king and pawn endgames. They're fun. Let's go all the way back. So f5 is a good move to try. There it is. After h5, f5 is a good try, but you can just take with the king and you're fine. What if they move the king? What if they say, okay, sure, you take my pawn. What do I do? This is still going to be a win for black. You know, king f1, you just play king g4. You're going to take this pawn, right? King g2, you take this. It's the only winning move. And sure, they can play here. You just back up, recalibrate. You have two pawns. You're good. Just to play this out a bit more, just to show the idea. King f5, king f2. You want to eventually take up a strong post like king f4. That's a nice move, right? Guarding everything. They have to stay attached to this pawn, so they have to go to one of these squares. I guess this square makes a lot of sense. h4, you might see where this is going. We'll just kind of oscillate. h3, now they can't go here anymore. You want to go back or do you want to go here? Right, if you go here, this pawn's going to win. All right, hopefully you see how this is all kind of falling apart. And if they go back, you just take this. No stalemates. g5, just to show the ending. But this is pretty much the idea. g4, I don't know, just move the king back and forth just to show it. g3, no stalemate. How do you win it? Check, they go here, and then you make this critical move, king f2. They can take here. Nice little pattern to know if you don't know it, which is to put the queen right here, blocking these squares, forcing them back, and that's mate. That's a long variation. That was like an 18-move variation. But just to show the concept of how to win that king and pawn ending. So let's go all the way back. So h5 fixes this h-pawn, and then it kind of gives them a hand to say, what are you going to do? And no matter what they do, like this or like that, or some other attempt, even something like this, you just take it, right? Do you take this pawn? Do you take this pawn? It doesn't matter. You win either way. So hopefully you got something out of this. I find it interesting that h5 is the winning move. I feel like in endgame, sometimes you want to preserve your tempo or your tempi. So I was thinking h6, but then of course that hits. And I think many of us would just play pawn takes or king takes pawn in bullet chess and not even think twice about h5. But yeah, it's pretty interesting that they can play this h5 move and they draw the game. So hopefully you found something to be instructive. I like these simple looking endgames because, you know, it's just a few pieces on the board. Where there's 7 pieces on the board, it's amazing. So just to show it one more time, h5 wins the game for black. No matter what they do, you're going to collect these pawns, win the king and pawn endgame, and win the game. So that is it for now. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, all that fantastic stuff. And until next time, bye.